Hey YouTube, JP here, and today we are looking at a tiny handheld device for emulation. So without further delay, let's dive in. So today we are looking at the Funkey S. Now this device is tiny. Look at the box is tiny, you know, but the actual device itself is even smaller. So let's take a look. So here is the box for the Funkey S. Now it's hard to tell in videos how big boxes are and scale, etc. So let's compare it to an Xbox Series S controller. So you can see there it's quite a small box. So what is the Funkey S before we continue? The Funkey S was developed to be a very small retro handheld device to play old school NES, Mega Drive, all the way up to PlayStation. Now it does PlayStation really well, but it's not ideal, and I'll go over that once we have a look at the device. So before we go ahead and do the unboxing, let's take a quick look at the specs. So we have the dimensions of 42.5 by 44.5 by 13.8 millimeters. So again, this is a really small device. The processor is ARM Cortex A7 running at 1.2 GHz. We have 64 megabytes of DDR2 RAM, SD card for storage up to 128 GB, a 1.54 IPS LCD display 240 by 240, a 10mm mono speaker, the battery is 410 milliamps, LED charging indicator, micro USB port for charging the battery and loading games. So that was the specs. Let's get on with the unboxing. So let's unbox. So I went for the atomic purple. Here's the device itself. So we'll have a look at that in a moment. Some packaging. So we have a USB to the old. Yeah, I know it's not USB-C, but to be honest with you, with sort of the market that this device is aimed at, it's not really cutting edge. So we have like a little keyring chain thing here. Now I took it off the device because it did come already on there. So you can probably tell by now that this device is ridiculously small. It's supposed to be a keyring, but if I was to use this as a keyring, it would get absolutely ruined within about a week. And they also kindly give you a load of replacement buttons for the front of the device. So your function button, your start select, your D-pad and your A, B, X, Y buttons. So that's a nice touch that they give you different ones so you can change them. Right, let's get rid of all this and let's have a look at the device itself. So this is like a Game Boy Advance SP style where it's a clamshell design. And oh my god, this is tiny. Now, I don't know if you can see the screen there. Let's try and, there we go. So this is tiny. Look how big the screen is compared to my thumb. Let's just compare. So this is the sort of size comparison compared to an Xbox Series S controller. This thing is just absolutely tiny. You know, you look at it in the palm of my hand, that's how small this is. And that's what makes this device absolutely amazing. So yes, this device is tiny. And if we look here, that's just so tiny, so small, this device. And when you fold it closed, it's even smaller. This, it's hard to say if this is like a novelty thing or something that's actually practical, because I believe it's a bit of both. You can play games on it, and I'll go over that soon. The screen is absolutely tiny. So is it practical? Is it a novelty? It's kind of in between. So if we were to have a look, here, I'm having to bring it really close to the camera because it's just so small. So it'll play Game Boy games, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Gear, Master System, Genesis stroke Mega Drive, Turbo FX, Lynx, Neo Geo Pocket, Wonder Swan Color, and PlayStation. Now I've only got the one PlayStation game on here, but it does actually play the game really well. Let's have a look at something that's easier to emulate first. Let's have a look at some Game Boy. And I have actually got Super Mario Land on here. Now the audio you're hearing is actually coming from the device, and it's been picked up by my microphone. So this is basically what it sounds like. It's not crazy loud, but it is, you know, this is Super Mario Land. One of my favourite games on the Game Boy, by the way. And it's just running absolutely fine. Now my wife did actually try playing this game, but she's got acrylic nails on, so she really struggled to actually get the buttons. And I do apologise if the screen is just shaking all over the place. It's so hard to hold such a small device and film at the same time. But you kind of get the idea here that anything sort of this performance level, it's just going to emulate it absolutely fine. You know, and I don't struggle to play it. It's... Oh, got stuck under there. And there we go. So let's have a look around the device. Now the atomic purple is clear, so you can see through it. You can see the back of the screen there. You can see the battery, 410 milliamp. What you can't see is just here, there is a micro SD card. Now I believe it's got 32 gig standard, but it will take up to 128 gig. The SD card, you do have to take the device apart by taking the screws out, etc. So, but for what sort of games this emulates, they're not that big. So the card that's in there is more than adequate for what you need. So taking a look around the device, we've got the L and R buttons on the top. These do feel quite stiff, they're harder to push. I wish they were a bit easier to press, because when you're actually playing on the device, it's kind of, you're kind of like trying to hold the device and then push the top buttons, and you kind of have to brace the device at the bottom as well with these with your fingers here so you can push it. I wish those weren't as hard to press. I know the buttons inside are a lot easier to press than these. What else have we got here? We've got the micro USB port here for charging and data transfer. And then we've got nothing else on the device. When you open the device up, it will turn on straight away. Now this is a great feature as well. If you were to close the device, it will do a save state. When you open it back up, you can see here, look, if I can focus, it's back playing the game. So we'll push the function button and we'll end the game. And we'll go back to the start. So the buttons that we have here, we have the function button. Now this will bring up your volume to power down the device, set a theme, brightness for the screen. And when you're in a game, you can do save states, things like that. So it's the software itself is brilliant. It's so easy to use the software on this device. Compared to other devices, this is supposed to be something you just carry around with you When you've got time, you're bored, you need to kill a bit of time, 20 minutes, whatever, you can just sit there and play this. So we have a D-pad, and this feels quite nice. It's quite easy to press these buttons compared to the shoulder buttons. Then we have the ABXY, again, exactly the same buttons as the D-pad there, so they're easy to push. And then we have the start and select, and again, they're really easy to push as well. One thing I will say, when you get the device, the only games that are preloaded are fan-made homebrew games. So you will have to put your own games on here. Which I guess, I know some of the devices, Amber Nick, etc., the Power Kiddies, they will be a bit naughty and they will put licensed games on here. But if you have a look at Nintendo, there is literally, you're not going to find Mario or anything in here. Not a bad thing. It's really easy to get ROMs nowadays. I downloaded Super Mario Land 2 and Super Mario Land because I own the originals. And again, with PlayStation, I downloaded Resident Evil because I own the original on the PlayStation 1. So it's quite easy to get the games for the device. And yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. The only thing I will say, so the 1.5-inch screen is not the best for playing PlayStation games. It's quite small, and with its resolution of 240 by 240 pixels, it can do it. It's got the power to do it. And as you'll see here, it runs perfectly fine. But don't forget, you do not have any analog sticks here. You've only got R1 and L1. You know, there's no R2 and L2. So it is very select sort of games. But it's great to actually see it running on here. So Resident Evil is definitely one of my favourite games on the PlayStation 1. Well, the Resident Evil franchise I'm a massive fan of. But let's get the focus. There we go. So yeah, you can play it, but the screen is too small, in my opinion, for PlayStation games. But for everything else, it's absolutely fine. Any 16-bit consoles work absolutely brilliantly on this little device. And this is becoming one of my favourite retro devices just because of how small it is. When I show friends and family and say, look at this little keyring, it can play PlayStation 1 games. No one believes you at first. And the battery life's pretty good as well. So, yeah, that is my small review on the Funkey S. And it is an absolute pleasure to sit and play games on this. Even though I will play on this device occasionally, it's not going to be my main retro handheld device. I'm hoping that that's going to be the AYN Odin Pro. I've heard so many good things about it. But at the moment, I'm playing on the RG351V. I haven't fully set up and tested the RG552 yet. That's going to be coming in a video very soon. But what do you guys think? Is this something that you would buy? Is it something you're interested in? Or is it not functional enough and too expensive when you could use that money to buy a full-size handheld with analog sticks, much bigger screen so you can play the PlayStation games properly, etc. Let me know in the comments below. So I'm going to end the video here. If you enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. I'm JP, you've been watching Alien Gaming, and I'll catch you in the next one.